Hi guys, it's Patrick here from PDF Careers. I've got Shamane with me today, and we're going to talk about the topic in regards to changing your career and I guess how to do it successfully as well. So, hi Shamane, how are you going?
Hi, yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me here, Pat.
Not a problem, not a problem. And it looks nice and sunny where you're at the moment as well.
Yeah, it's a pretty good weather.
Yeah.
We are into summer soon.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Spring now, so no, it's nice weather.
Mm,
And thanks for taking your time. So what I wanted to do was, talk about, I guess, your career and it's a really impressive career what you've done. So keen to get an understanding of, I guess, how you've achieved what you've done and then shifted as well. So I just quickly quick introduction about yourself, and then we'll move into the topic.
yeah, sounds good. So, my name is Shamane Tan. I'm the Chief Growth Officer at Privacy. So we're really like a cybersecurity consulting firm, and I really work closely with the CXOs in helping them bridge their gaps in uplifting their corporate security posture.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much my day job. Outside of that, I'm the founder of Cyber Risk Meetup, which is a community where cyber risk professionals gather together. Before COVID, we actually gather maybe like once every quarter in Sydney, in Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, in Singapore as well. And we recently opened up a chapter in Japan, in Tokyo, earlier this year.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting. It's a great community. I think we have about maybe more than 3,000 people that will gather. And now that we are in this virtual world, it's also offered a new platform where everyone can gather together and really just tap into the insights of the industry leaders.
Yeah. And then I guess,
Yeah.
the geographical restrictions are now open up as well, right? Like you can talk to, the Japanese chapter and Singapore as well. So
Yeah.
that's that extra element to it as well.
Yeah, definitely. So that's something that's really been exciting for the whole community. Yes, I think that's pretty much it in a nutshell in terms of what I do.
No, thank you for that. And look, and obviously we will touch on that a bit more, but what I'm really curious about is you actually, our backgrounds are actually quite similar. You started, or you've got a career in recruitment.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so the wonderful world of recruitment. So, so that's probably one of the things I want to ask is like, I guess first and foremost, what made you decide to move away from recruitment? And then we'll go on the questions about how you change your careers.
Yeah, sounds good. I think before I go into the moving out of recruitment, right, I wanted to share that what I really enjoy about the recruitment industry and the world that you're in as well, right, is really just helping people get into their dream jobs. And everyone spend most of their day in a job, and it's a huge part of your life, right? So I really enjoy like the relationships that I've built with my candidates, and it's very meaningful to know that many years from now, some of them are still in touch, and then they say, hey, that advice you gave me about helping me to find out what I really love about my specialization. Right now I'm doing what I'm doing. I really enjoy it, and it's because of the things that you've shared with me before. I think things like that really made a lot of it just made it so meaningful, right? To know that you have such a
You're making an impact on people's lives, a positive impact.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I always look at fondly in terms of
Yeah, and you're doing a good thing, right? As well, you're doing a good thing if people are, after, you might have placed someone years ago and they still reach out to you and say, hey, I remember the advice you gave me. So that's obviously really good as well.
Yeah, and like you say yourself as well, it's about like the friendships that you've built over the years, right? It is a small world, and interestingly, I think it's been like 8 years. There are a few of them who still get in touch with me, and they are like friends, right? Where you are vested in seeing their own growth and their career growth, and you take the journey with them still, even though you're no longer in their industry. So yeah, really enjoy what I did, and I wasn't really looking to leave recruitment. I think one of my most exciting conversations that I've had before with, or rather, one of the most exciting projects I've been involved, right, is with a group of C-levels where they wanted to build up the intelligence hub, the security hub actually, for one of the global banks, and that's the first ever in APAC. So I really enjoyed like being involved in that project and helping them build up their hub. And that's when I realized, cybersecurity was in the core of it. I think back then, cyber was really new. Cybersecurity was new. In fact, it wasn't even called cybersecurity back then. I think it's called info security or IT security. So I think just being along with them in that journey where we see the trends evolving, we see the landscape changing, that whole thing really just excites me.
Yeah.
And what happened was that I think for quite a few years, like one of my clients have
Hmm.
been talking to me and actually headhunting me and then asking
Yeah.
me, why don't I consider transferring, applying my skills? It's actually transferable, right? And
Hmm. Hmm.
why don't I consider joining the industry itself? And that planted a seed in me.
Yeah.
Um, and there is always that fear though of stepping into the unknown, because when you enjoy what you're doing for so many years, you don't really want to leave it. You know, you're doing well, you're flourishing, and then
Right.
to leave all of that, yeah, that's actually scary. So
Oh, it's a big jump for sure. You know, going into the unknown and, you know, complete career change. So yeah, definitely.
yeah, so it was something that, but I'm really glad I don't regret it at all, because a lot has happened since then. And for me, it was sort of actualizing one of my, because I did a degree in computer engineering, so for recruitment has been helpful, because when you know you understand the IT jargons, you understand the world, right, of the
Yes.
IT people, being having come from that world itself. But it's different when you know it from an external point of view versus being in that world itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was something that I thought, it's going to be a new challenge. I'm really excited about it. Plus, the community that I was building, I was involved in all those conversations, right, where you see all the C-level sharing their insights with the community, and there's a lot of bridging of gaps that's taking place. And I just feel like, yeah, I want to give it a go. And I joined actually one of the sessions with the AWSN, which is Australian Security Women in Network Association. And
Hmm.
for one of those lunch events, and I met a lot of incredible women there and also men. And they were very brave, because some of them actually don't come from the industry. So they came from, like, some of them came from a legal background, some were mathematicians, one of them was from communications,
Hmm. Hmm.
change, like just running change programs, nothing relating to cybersecurity. But they all have an interest in being in this field.
Yeah.
And I've seen how they have actually made that transition very successfully, just applying their different skills. Because cyber is a very broad industry. So
Hmm.
people always think that you have to be technical in order to have a career here, and that's not true.
Yeah, no, that's a good point to add, because I had another chat with one of my other contacts in cybersecurity. He was saying as well that he focused on not the not necessarily always the technical part, but obviously the softer skills, people, and like you said, the skills that are transferable. Because
Yeah,
the technical knowledge, you can pick it up, you can
yeah,
learn it, you can study it, but it's sometimes the other parts that maybe take it obviously a bit harder, and obviously
yeah.
as you know. And I guess and thank you for that. So in regards to changing your career, then what do you think was the hardest part of doing
Mm.
that whole process?
Ooh, the hardest part. I think it's like I mentioned before, more of like, when you leave something that you've spent your years building, your ties, your network. I thought I was going to leave all of that, right?
Yeah.
And leaving the expertise that I'm confident in,
Hmm.
to bank it all on the unknown, right? And you don't know if you're gonna make it or if you're gonna flourish. So
Hmm.
I think the hardest part was, it's funny because I've given this advice to a lot of people, but learning how to apply it for myself, that was hard. The imposter syndrome kicks in. You wonder, like, can you really do it? It's all these are very real, right? But you will never know unless you try. And I know what I know is that I'm passionate about it, and I'm so hungry to learn. And that was my mindset back then. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to leave it to chance or regret, and I'm just going to go for it. And I did
Yeah.
have a good community that supported me. Even my current company, Previous Tech, they really said they're going to back me up, train me up in areas that I'm not familiar with. You learn on the job as well.
Hmm.
And all that was a great opportunity to really establish myself as a thought leader in this space. And it took that, few years, but it was very, very worth it.
Yeah, thank you for that. I hope people find that quite inspiring, because yeah, I think it's always quite tough to take that initial jump.
Mm.
And there might be one piece of advice or something that kind of make you click and go, yeah, I'm just But I believe what you say, right? If you're gonna give it a go, you have to. It's almost like you gotta make it work. Like you can't have a backup plan. You can't think, will it not work? It's like, no, it's gonna work. I'm just gonna keep going at it, right? and you've got the right motivations and the right values in place where it's like, you know, I'm passionate about it, I can do it. So yeah, it's just going to be success, you know, don't think of failure in that sense.
Yeah, and don't worry about it. Like for those people who are thinking of a career change, I mean, you're not alone in this, right? So don't do it alone, right? Find allies, find mentors, people who have been there, done there, and then you can learn from them and be very inspired also by their own journeys. So there are a lot of great role models out there in our industry.
Yeah, I can imagine that would have helped you significantly, right? Like, you know,
Yes.
just knowing that other people had the same ideas and then they've made it successful. And then sometimes what they say doesn't sound like rocket science, you know what I mean? It's just really giving it a go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And in regards to, I guess, and you've kind of alluded to it, but if I had to, you know, kind of simplify it and make it straightforward, what type of advice or what's the best advice that you give to others that were thinking of, you know, career changes? Because like even, you know, in my industry, I've got lots of people, especially with the pandemic, they're, you know, considering doing career changes, thinking of moving into an industry that may not be as affected, but obviously, you know, it's quite tough. So, you know, what type of advice would you give, you know, if you had to kind of break it down to, you know, the key aspects?
Yeah. That's a good question. I would say first is to do what you're passionate. Don't wait till you are in your dream job before you are doing what you're passionate about, right? You can make your job your dream job. So I would say do it now, you know, start with what you have. So I would say like be faithful with the little that you have. So a lot of people, you know, even in cybersecurity, right, they want to, maybe they come from a network background, infrastructure background, and you see a lot of people with those sort of backgrounds jumping into cybersecurity. But what if you don't have those backgrounds? Right? How do you move into this? And it's a chicken and egg thing because you put your hand up for for such a role, but then your skills do not match what is required in the job specs. So how is new companies going to give you a chance, right? So this is where you have to look at, okay, what do you have in your hands? Maybe your current role in your current organization, are there opportunities within your company that you can put up your hand and say, hey, you know what, I want to take on new responsibilities and maybe expand my responsibilities a bit so that I have some exposure in maybe cybersecurity that another team is working on, but I want to help out in those projects. And that's a great way to actually pick up new skills, learn on the job too. Or another way is also, you know, get involved in community. So there's a lot of great activities going on, whether they're hackathons for those who are interested in the more techie side of things, meetups, the tech talks. Across the world, there's so many different tech meetups, you know, where you can get involved in different projects, where you can, run your projects for charity or just community. And those are great ways you can pick up practical skills and relevant skills. And you end up doing things that you're passionate about that might not necessarily be found in your current role, but you get the chance to do that externally. And then eventually you'll find that, who knows, that role will just grow and you know, that the right opportunity will also come to you then.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, right, if you show a bit of initiative and proactiveness, you never know what you can get, because someone that doesn't have that exposure goes, look, I'll put my hand up, I'll give it a go. And then before you know it, they might go, oh, you're actually doing a good job of it, so keep going. And then there you go, new role created. So I guess if you put yourself in those positions, you never know. So I guess to summarize what you just said, it's kind of like look for things that you're passionate about, or, you know, something that you want to do. And then, you know, and I'm a really big fan of what you said, just in regards to, you know, trying to get as much exposure or opportunity in your current role, rather than waiting to go, well, I want to move into that role, but I've got no experience. Like you said, right, go get the experience yourself, get that exposure. And then, you know, reach out to, you know, communities and, you know, forum groups, things like that, so you can, you know, meet new people, network, and then obviously learn more about it. So I think there's some really good tips and advice there. Thank you.
No worries, so glad to hear that.
And I guess last question I've got, and then something that obviously you do as well, is that you're a TEDx speaker. Yeah, so I guess I guess, and look, obviously it's got, you know, really good, obviously, in terms of the people that get there, you know, and the topics they talk about. And I'm putting you on the spot now. Well, what's something I guess that's interesting that other people may not know about that whole experience? And, you know, if people want to get involved, you know, how would they go about doing that?
Ooh. Okay. Yeah, so TEDx was one of my dreams. You know, you always think that you have to be a absolutely great communicator before you can be a TEDx speaker. So I think since young, I don't know why, I just have this childhood dream of wanting to share, like have a story that I can share with people. And it will be a story that can empower them and can help them and encourage them. So I think how I came about it is this came through a recommendation. Someone actually directed me to one of the TEDx teams, and then put me in touch, and then that's how I got to work with them. You know, they had a theme usually. So how it works is that like the different TEDx teams, they have their own. Every year there's a different theme that they will work on, and they will look for stories that align with the theme. So the most scary part about it is that when, let's say you get selected, right, there is a lot of process. So you have to go through like different rounds. They were like kind of like an interview, you know, find out about your story. You have to like walk through how you're going to approach it and all that. So the whole thing. But the most intimidating part is that when you actually get to the final bit and you are on that stage, everything is live. So you know, if you blank out on that day, if you forget what you want to say, everything is going to be captured. They can't edit it, right? Once they choose the speakers, there's only like a few speakers that year. Every year there's only maybe, I don't know, depending on the TEDx team that organized this. So let's say maybe there's 5 speakers only. And if you appear on it, you forget your words, it's all recorded. It's just going to be there on a TED, even a TED forum, the TED official TED page. So I think what I would share is that instead of focusing on that, which can be really daunting, what I got really encouraged is that I got to know the TEDx team, and I realized why are they so passionate about bringing stories together, because they just really want to help people. They want to encourage and inspire people as well. So it's really interesting, like getting to know the team. And then when I eventually appeared on the stage and I like look at the audience, I realized that it is about the audience. It's not about you. And that actually helps to dissipate the fear, because you realize, okay, what you want to share, you just want to share your own story. You're just about being real, being vulnerable with them. And at the end of the day, if they can walk away learning something that they can apply to impact their own life, I think that's all worth it. So that's something that was the whole experience for me. And yeah, it was such an unforgettable experience. Yeah, it was really, really good. And it was also a bit scary because you have to be so real about your own story, right?
Yeah, I can imagine it's scary, for sure. Like how big are the audience that you're talking in front of?
Mine was right in the midst before, I think when COVID was just about to happen. So this was quite it was a first ever in a TEDx history as well, because COVID was happening, so they had to decide whether they're going to do it virtual or do it in live. So mine was actually the last one that they did live. Okay. So a lot of people couldn't, they had to limit the size. I don't really have the numbers of how many came, but I'm not too sure. I know the auditorium, it was filled, but it was limited and kept to a certain limit. Yeah.
Talking in front of 10 people or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, no, well, thank you for sharing that. That was really insightful as well. Good. I like how you're going. Yeah, it's easy. Just be vulnerable. You know what I mean? It's kind of like obviously that's it's tough for people as well.
It is tough because it's your story, right? It's going to be shared with like the millions who are out there watching your TEDx show. But I think, yeah, you can check it out. It's the imposter syndrome of the tall poppies. So it will relate to a lot of people, because I was so genuine about like the fears that I had to go through, the stigma that everyone actually go through, and also with the voices that are in your head that criticize you, that tell you not to go ahead, right? Or maybe you're not good enough, and that's so relevant to what a lot of people face. But how do you overcome that?
Yeah. Well, I guess my kind of little saying that I kind of go by myself is I try not to let fear dictate my actions.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing, right? More often than not, we kind of fear that we're gonna not do well, we're gonna stuff up, and it's like, what's the worst that can happen? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, exactly. And these are the kind of fears that cause people to be silent, right? Because your voice is robbed from listening to people's opinions or even your own thoughts, right? And at the end of the day, we should let our own voice be louder than the voices around us and the voices in our heads. And you never know what you can achieve when you just be bold enough to just speak. So that was what I walked away from.
No, thank you. No, and that's really good advice. I don't think I could say anything better, so I'm probably not going to say anything.
No, you're doing really well. Thanks for asking really good questions.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. Look, thank you for your time. I really enjoyed this chat, and and I think a lot of people get a lot from it. So, in terms of your community and the thing, obviously the cybersecurity space that you run, do you want to give a quick plug, or a website, or the name of it, so people can look it up or join as well?
Oh, sounds good. Thanks a lot, Pat. Yeah, so for those who are listening, they can always check out cyberriskmeetup.com. So there's a lot of local communities, whichever part of Australia you're in, or if you're joining us from Southeast Asia as well. It's all there. Or you can check out, we are also on podcast. So it's called the Mega C-Suite Stories, and you get to listen to different C-level share their story. Maybe even like one CISO about how he was almost fired by the CIO of Arnold Schwarzenegger. So that's really interesting. We had the world's first CISO, I think all the way in 1994. And, yeah, so that was another interesting one. So yeah, there are different podcast series. You can check it out there. Or if you're interested in a business book, I'm also the author of Cyber Risk Leaders, which has it's a collection of more than 70 overseas execs voices of their insights on leadership and influence. And I really collected all their key takeaways from different countries. So from the US, from Israel, from Australia, from Southeast Asia, from the UK. So it's really quite fascinating. So they can also check it out, Cyber Risk Leaders.
Okay. For that. Well, again, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great day, and thank you again.
Thanks a lot, Pat.
No
Thanks
problem.
for having me. Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye.